put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning and welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. We're just at 7:43 a.m. So if you're getting yourself to work for 8 a.m., you have just about 17 minutes to drop the children off to school safely and to get yourself to work. Remember, drive on our nation's roads very safely this morning. We want you to get there in one piece to get your work done this morning. All right, we continue conversations this morning in studio, and we speak this morning with Dr. Denise Tsoiafatt Angus, and she's the political leader of the IDA. And we're going to be talking about, is Tobago ready for Carnival 2024? Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you here this morning in studio with us as we go through the places and we talk about the important topics about things happening here on the island of Tobago. So we're talking about Carnival 2024. We know some of the events have already started happening. You know, yesterday there was a runaway event, and then, you know, there are so many things happening on the island leading up to the big weekend here in Tobago. Do you think that Tobago is positioned, ready to host this grand show, even though some events have already started taking place? We're talking about things like the budget, the infrastructure, the collaboration of the agencies. Do you think we're in a good place to host this event, in the third edition of this event?
I think we should have been in a much better place because this is the third time, and the opportunity every time to get it right and do things better. And I was a bit disappointed, like many others, that we started off with, again, poor planning and execution of the activities that are very last minute. You starting out by just telling us this week of the budget. How do you know what you're planning for if you don't have a proper budget? None of us, I don't know who leaves their home, goes to the supermarket not knowing what is the maximum money you're going to be spending this week on your groceries. Do you just go in there and just look around and shop and then decide to go to the ATM and take out your money? Or are you going to practice proper planning by knowing what is your budget, what's the maximum you intend to spend in the grocery, and what are the items that are absolutely necessary that you have to take home? And if you're looking at it that way, then, you know, persons are not ready to manage this carnival, to really maximize and get the most out of it. Now, you're going to have people, you're going to have the events, but are we maximizing and getting the most out of what we're spending to get?
And in terms of maximizing and getting the most returns on it, what are some of the things you are hoping, or if you were in the position to plan in such a way to get the maximum benefits, what are some of the returns you're looking for in terms of the spend, the 9 million spend, or whatever the budget might be in future editions of the carnival? What are the returns you're hoping to get?
Well, let us look at it from this way. You know, you're putting on any country putting on an event or carnival, you need, number one, economic growth. You need to show economic growth coming out of the exercise. And therefore, I would hope that they have measurements in place to determine what has been the economic growth given the spend that we have had this year. We are also looking at the cultural preservation, promotion, you know, growth of our cultural fraternity and the creativity coming out of that. You're also looking for global recognition, because with global recognition now, that then again fuels your economic growth in the future, your ability to attract investments into the island. And so those are the three pillars you want to operate. But you can't operate without having proper evaluation and an opportunity to look at statistics. So they should be able to share what are the statistics coming out of last year. How do we improve on those statistics? to date, we have not had those statistics. Those are not in place to be measured. Is anyone measuring, the fact that you're having Blue Food this weekend and Carnival next weekend? How many people have decided to stay on the island for the whole week? How is that impacting? Are your groceries seen an up in expenditure with people coming in, or even, your local vendors? And that's going to be something that they need to measure even within the Blue Food period and within the Carnival period. Are you seeing an increase in the number of vendors who are experiencing gains within that time? Or are you seeing people who are coming with better planning for their budgets, who saying, we're going to Tobago to spend Carnival, but we only spending X amount. So when the money done, we ain't spending no more. So I think there has to be some measurements in place to know where we are going.
In terms of the Carnival is pretty young. We're in the third year. Some might say we're young, some might say, yeah, but it's 3 years to make the assessment. Where are you on that? Is it that we are a little bit young, or you're thinking by now we should be able to have, as you mentioned, the statistics to make better plans, as you say, in terms of getting statistics and numbers and knowing what to expect?
This year is the turning point. Okay? It's 3 years. This year is the turning point to know where our Tobago Carnival will go or not go. This year is the opportunity to really do the statistical analysis that has not done before, to understand how do we take it to the next level. If not, we can have a very failed product on our hands going forward, because after this year, you'll be branded either survival, failure, can't thrive. So this year is a crucial year for all.
But what are some of the things you think would be like a challenge? Because I know you're talking about we measuring, comparing last year to this year. One of the major challenges, the Carnival is not just for the people who are on the island of Tobago. There are people who have to come into the island, whether it's from Trinidad or from the region, the Caribbean region, or international destinations. And so is it fair, or is it accurate to say that the planning, they do need to revisit the planning in terms of ensuring all the bases are covered? But when you have external agencies who have the authority, to assist in terms of adding more flights, as the lead up to the event, do you think that conversation is adequately had, or do you think that more can be done? And, we're looking at the persons who have the authority to so do, which is, of course, Carl and the representatives, to have the conversation and negotiate for things like that, because I believe that might be a hindrance to the numbers that come into the island to participate on the events that we host here.
When did the negotiations for Tobago Carnival 2024 begin with Carl? Did they begin the day after Carnival 2023? Or did we begin 3 months ago? You can't begin those discussions 3 months ago. Those discussions have to start taking place now for Carnival 2025. Because you're in the experience of inadequacies. You've also had 3 years of data to go to Cal from now to say, listen, this is what is absolutely needed. And if you're not getting the commitment out of Cal, you have to start looking at different avenues. Are there different airlines coming out of the different Caribbean islands or elsewhere that you can entice to fly directly to Tobago? So those are some of the ideas that you have to start thinking bigger about, because it cannot just be, okay, I went to Carl from 3 months ago and they're not putting up flights or whatever. Start that conversation now for next year. The conversation can't begin 9 months from now. Start the conversations now for next year and determine whether Cal can satisfy that, or you have to start looking elsewhere right away.
And I think that conversation is a year-round conversation, in fact, because I don't think that the conversation is just for Carnival. I think it intensified. But as I mentioned in the previous interview, from January to December, we have the same issue with Cal over and over and over, where you always hear people talking about not being able to come to Tobago or go to Trinidad back and forth, as the case might be. I want to switch.
Can they encourage charters? I mean, people go take charter flights to go to different places. Can you now create charter flights for this activity coming forward?
So the conversation has to expand to ensure that it can accommodate the needs, the demands for the period and the seasons that we're in. The $9 million budget for Carnival, do you think it is sufficient to host the type of event, the production that we want to have here on the island for the period for Carnival?
But how are you going to know whether it's too much, too little? You know, because right now you're talking about spending $9 million in 2 weeks. No, $11.5 million. It's not $11.5 million in 2 weeks. How do you spend $11.5 million in 2 weeks? Where is that money going? Is it going to stakeholders? Is it going to infrastructure? Is it going to paying past bills, that are still outstanding for Carnival 2023? How is that money being spent within 2 weeks? If you don't have a budget from the start and knowing how you're going to be spending that budget, to now come and say, okay, you have 11.5 million to spend in 2 weeks. You're not going to have appropriate spending. You're not going to know, did this go in the right way? Was it too much? Was it too little? It's a recipe for disaster when you operate that way in terms of your budgeting.
For a successful Carnival, right? Let's say you are given the opportunity, or you're in the position of influence or decision making, and you're sitting at the helm, and you are planning for Carnival 2025. Where would you begin?
When is we have it on the Carnival is what, the 16th and the 17th?
I'm talking about October Carnival.
No, October Carnival.
Right.
This year is what?
The 26th.
The 26th. Yes, it finishes the 27th on the 20th.
So you're going to start planning on the 20th. But what is the conversation going to be like? So you start, okay, we've had Carnival, we come out of Carnival, it's Monday morning, you call a meeting with all your stakeholders. Yes. What are the things you are going to discuss on that Monday morning?
We need the data. We need the data to know what took place in Carnival 2025. We need a full assessment of all of the data being gathered, and that is where you begin. How many people came to the island? How the hotels were done? Were there any issues? How did the stakeholders fare? All of those conversations have to happen. How many people got left on an air bridge? How many people who said they were going to come did not come? And that information you could also get from the hotels, because if they have had bookings that got cancelled, then that can give you an indication. But that's where you need to start the planning from the day after. I remember when I went into being the Secretary of Community Development and Culture, and at the time you had the Festival Commission, and I would like to say, I used to call it bat up and catch, because they finish Heritage, and that is when they now start a plan for Carnival, and I said, no, you can't have it that way. These are two very key festivals. You must have a year-long committee that is dedicated to focusing on developing the heritage product. You must have a year-long committee focused on dedicated to the Carnival product. So we separated the two committees. So from day one, you have a committee that is focused on building your Carnival product, growing the Carnival product, because it's not just about, visitors to the island. You also have to make sure that your stakeholders are ready to take full advantage of what is being offered, and let me really congratulate persons who are really promoting our local artists, because in some aspects, they have been left behind sometimes. And I want to really commend, I believe it's Mr. Iwa George and his new place called Vibes, formerly Shade, for having a total local cast, you know, as part of this whole activity, part of the whole activities during this period, so they can showcase all the local talent in Tobago concerning the soca artists. Similarly, well, you know, the Carnival, the band leaders, they pan, they're always on top with their game. But we also need to do some work in promoting and exposing our the mass product. And we also need to define, what do we consider Tobago mass product to be? Is there a space for, you know, showcasing our traditional inside of the beads and everything else that you have happening, and of course, you know, the mud event. So it's again pulling that data right the day after, sitting down, analyzing and saying, okay, how do we build on that going forward? How do we disappear the challenges? If we started out with 11.5 this year, was 11.5 enough? Was it too much? And if you start out there, you may find that you have more investors coming in. So it's not just 2.5 in sponsorship you may begin to get more, because you're planning earlier. People see a clear vision. And I want to commend, I actually got a flyer yesterday of a group that has already planned their jazz event. It's golf and jazz. And they're sending out flyers already for jazz. You know? So we have to start planning ahead of time. That's when you have better planning for events. That is where you get more efficient expenditures, and you can have a better procurement process, because I'm now looking 2 weeks to go, what procurement plus process we are using. And we know we have these long drawn out procurement processes now. How are we executing within that time for 2 weeks?
Thank you so much. I wish we had more time to continue this conversation this morning, but I do appreciate your input here as we prepare for Carnival 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been speaking with Dr. Denise Tsoiafatt Angus as we went through the paces of Is Tobago ready for Carnival 2024, and she also gave her opinions on how we prepare for 2025. Thank you so much for staying with us. This is where we end the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television, but it's not where we end our programming. We head on over to GMT, and as we go, we invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live.